Good morning, guys, and welcome to today's video. We are starting the back half of our trip. So I'm coming back from Virginia going to Illinois. Got 845 miles, so this is the second half of the trip. So I already came out here, and today's video is going to be on how the new transmission tows, everything I've noticed, loaded, unloaded, semi-broken in at this point, and we'll see how it goes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on the road, and I'll get back with you guys in a little bit. So we're actually pretty early into the trip, grabbing some diesel fuel, and one thing you guys might be tracking on, this isn't actually the same as the stuff that wasn't here. I'm just using Super Tech, but I'm trying out adding 2-cycle oil to the fuel tank. So we just put in 25 gallons. So the way you go about doing this stuff, again, I'll put out an actual video on if I find this useful or not. So 28 ounces, 1 ounce per gallon. So we need about 25 ounces. So we're gonna go ahead and basically, we have 30 ounces in here. We gotta put 25 in. So we're gonna bring it down to about 5 ounce mark, which is right around here. And the primary reason for that is apparently when these trucks were designed by Cummins and everything, with the VP44 especially, as the fuel gets more pure, you wind up getting a fuel that's not as doesn't have the same amount of lubricity. So allegedly it'll quiet down your motor. It'll some of the other benefits I was reading are supposed to help out with fuel economy to an extent, and the main benefit is it'll extend the life of your VP44 pump, which for those of you not tracking on the Cummins is kind of a big deal. At least 24 valve, really, actually I think it's just 24 valve, so that's just about right. Put just a hair more in, and the ratio doesn't have to be perfect. A little more, you can get a little more lubricity to a point. Obviously you don't want it to start diluting the fuel, but this is like a 1 to, I think it's a 128 to 1 or something like that ratio. Don't quote me on that, it could be off by a little bit. But yeah, so basically the way you'd start out is you go ahead and you have a 35 gallon tank, fill it up, throw in 35 ounces, and then from there you just add in the appropriate amount of ounces. So basically however many gallons is how many ounces you're putting in after that. Hopefully we'll actually have some results out of it. I haven't noticed the motor running any quieter, so that's the first thing that I've noticed on this for about maybe 1,000 miles now. And the only thing I have noticed is my lift pump, of all things, seems to be more consistent with fuel pressure. So maybe it's helping out a little bit. It's definitely doing something. But other than that, that's really about it. So if it works, I figure from Walmart, you can get about 4 tanks out of the 5 gallon thing, and that's about 11 bucks. So you're looking at just around $3.50 of additive per fuel fill up, which isn't too bad. A lot of other diesel additives out there that some are better, some are more specific, but it'll do the same thing. Another big thing to remember, if you see a cetane boost, that's not lubricity or anything. Cetane is not like octane, it's totally different stuff. So don't equate that to better lubricity for the pumps. But again, the quick rundown, basically, it's 4 VP44s. They're meant to have a certain amount of lubricity. There's a bunch of write-ups on a bunch of different forums on it. So I'm gonna test it out. I haven't run it for a long time. I just ran normal diesel and haven't had any issues. And I wanna try this out and see if we actually do get better fuel economy or anything. The trailer I'm towing today is not super heavy. It's only about, it's about 3,000 pound trailer, which is empty, and then maybe 1,000 pounds, maybe 4,000 pounds. It's super lightweight, but this trailer is a box, and I get, regardless of the weight, about 12.5 miles to the gallon towing of the trailer. So if we get better than that, awesome. If not, not so great. We are going through a good number of mountains, so that's going to screw with. I'll wait until I get back through the Blue Ridge Mountains into the flats to actually really test fuel economy, but we'll see what happens. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on the road and keep on going. We have a long way to go today. Alrighty, so that brings me to how the transmission's been running, driving. So I've gone through mountains with it. I've had it on all 3 tunes. I've been towing on either the mild or number 2 tune. I have the Edge Easy tune if you're not tracking. A while ago I was towing on 3 all the time. I did not know that you're really not supposed to tow on 3 due to EGTs and whatnot. I don't think I damaged anything, but I also don't tow super heavy, so hopefully I'm good. But yeah, not supposed to do that. So pretty much just towed on 2 the whole time, especially through the mountains, trying to get up and down hills and stuff. There are a couple of areas where I did have to drop into 3rd to maintain speed, going about 60 up hills. So they're pretty steep. But the transmission has been doing so far phenomenal. Throughout the trip, I've been checking the trans fluid, just trying to make sure I actually fill it to the correct level. And I had about a quart and a half. The problem with you don't want to overfill it, and what happens is as you're driving down the road, not as you're driving, but when you first fill it or put fluid in, the entire dipstick tube is where you fill it through, and then you can't get a reading on your dipstick because when you pull it out, the whole thing is covered in trans fluid. So it's a little bit frustrating to actually get it to read right away. So what I'll do is I'll get pretty close, and then add a little bit, do some driving. The next time I stop, I'll check it again. And I've got a deeper pan, which has, I believe, 2 quarts to the system. So if it's a little low, it's not really going to hurt anything. But you want it at the proper level. So without the trailer, shifts into 1 and 2 really nicely, pretty early on, unless you're on the really hammering it. Pretty smooth. It is starting to get a little bit harsher a few shifts, and the reason for that is I need to do a band adjustment. So after 1,500 miles, I'm doing about 1,600 miles this round trip. You're supposed to do a filter change and a band adjustment. So especially the front band for the 1-2 shift specifically. So we're gonna go ahead and do that when we get back to the house after this run. That'll be next video, and see what we find. The guy did say, the builder, so this is dynamic stage 2, the builder said the fluid should be perfectly fine to reuse, so I'm just going to drain it out of the pan, do the filter change, and then maybe add a quart as needed, and that's about it. So it does run a earlier 96 Shark style filter, so the very early 2nd gens, I guess their 47 RE filter apparently is a better design, so he's running those, so I do need to make sure I get a different filter instead of the one that comes stock on this truck, so something to keep in mind for the future. But other than that, it's been doing great. Shifting well under load, same deal, pretty awesome. Swapping the TV cable bracket around, as you saw in the previous video with the transmission swap, did fix my TV cable length issue. For you not tracking the TV cable, I think it's like throttle valve cable or something. But essentially it tells the transmission where the throttle position is, and if I should downshift, upshift, or what, based on throttle position. So when you hammer it and it upshifts, it's that cable that tells it to do that. If you didn't have it, it just wouldn't know, and it wouldn't, shift properly. So that's been pretty good. Other than that, that's really about it. I mean, the drive is very close to stock, which I would assume is pretty smooth. Again, I don't know because my transmission was pretty beat when I got it. But it feels good. So pretty much overall, I like the transmission a lot, and at this point we'll just see how it lasts. Valve, for those of you also not aware, the stage 2 package includes a triple disc torque converter, upgraded valve body, and then clutch packs and all that other stuff. The other thing is the transmission temperature. So in town, city driving, it's been around, it'll get up to about 180, 190. But on the highway, it'll stick around 140 just about religiously. It's the summertime, it's about as hot as it's going to get going up and down mountains, doesn't matter, 140, 150. So I'm definitely pretty happy with that. I think the stock cooler is pretty decent, way better than the Chevy stock coolers for sure, coming from the Avalanche. So pretty happy with that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get driving, and see you guys toward the end of this trip if any updates happen or not. That's really about it. super fun. Some dump truck is on my route going extraordinarily slow. We're whopping 20 miles an hour, but we're going through, I believe, Blue Ridge Mountains or Appalachians, one of the two. Maybe, I think they're the same on the dump. Yeah, so probably the worst conditions to be trying to tow through. Granted, pretty light load still, but going extraordinarily slow up a mountain is somewhat irritating. So we'll just keep on trucking, but that's where we're at. Transmission's holding together quite well, but it is an awkward mile per hour for what it is, so we'll get there eventually. I gotta say, some of this view is pretty dang impressive. But we're finally on the backside of one of these mountains, 6% downgrade for the next mile. But check it out. That's honestly beautiful. Last time I came through here was at night, so I didn't get to see any of this stuff, but yeah. Pretty nice being able to road trip in the truck. So, although I think road tripping in the Mustang would be significantly more fun, we're getting it done. Seeing some new things. I gotta say, if you want to test out something, this is the place to do it. Maybe aside from like the Rockies, but I've been in third year at 60 miles an hour for a while now, and it's doing all right. Truck gets a little warm. I'm gonna get up. The highest I saw it hit was 211 water temperature. I don't have an EGT gauge, but I'm keeping it in a mild tune, so that shouldn't be a problem. Probably a future upgrade. Fuel pressure, it's not great. I'd prefer it was above 12 psi or 14. It's around 10 right now. The air dog is kind of been out of it a little bit for some reason this trip. And then, you know, full boost and transmission staying about 160. So we're gonna go back into overdrive as we're cresting this hill, but just something to keep in mind, I guess. But so far, the Cummins being a Haas doing what it's supposed to do. Curious how I do with a heavier load on, but it's getting the job done, so can't really complain. Let's go back to our time lapse. This is going to be a pretty cool little hill right here. Alrighty guys, well, I wound up stopping about 350 miles into this trip. See, fuel pressure's a lot happier. It's up toward that 17 psi mark, which is where I want it. Pretty much decided to stop, and I was going through the mountains. It was hanging out around 10 pretty consistently, so I'm not really sure why it dropped on me a little bit. It could be a voltage thing, could be maybe a loose ground somewhere, I don't know. But usually it's up around 15 to 17 psi, so I went ahead and adjusted the pump just a little bit and brought it up a couple extra psi just because I really don't want to have VP44 issues down the road from not getting enough lubrication. So the ideal area where you want it is generally at 17 psi. It's enough to have extra flow to go past the go through the return lines and everything and keep the pump cool, and then as well as supply plenty of fuel. You're really fine as long as it's above 10, but anything lower than that, it gets kind of dicey. You might start taking life off your pump. So mine are dropping, you know, 10, 7 down there. And I have an AirDog 165 on there, so there's literally no reason for it to be that low. So on the back of the AirDog, there's a little tiny screw. You just twist it just a hair, loosen up the stop nut, I guess, twist it, and it's good to go. So is what it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and get some fuel real quick, stop for food, bathroom, all that fun stuff, and we still got about 7 hours, 30 minutes to go on this trip, so about time for a little stop anyway, and then keep going. But this thing is starting to get old. Don't think I'm gonna try and make these long trips as frequently as I have been making them, but well, I'll go ahead and get you guys the next update, I guess. Decided to stop for fuel real quick just to check out a couple stuff, and 300 and basically 49 miles. Just popped in 29 gallons, puts us at 12.03 miles per gallon. So I'm going to confidently say that doing the two-stroke oil, although it might be helping stuff, is not really doing anything for miles per gallon whatsoever. Being that we're going a little faster than normal, I usually don't go 75. I'm going 75 for most of this trip, and up and down some pretty gnarly hills that require downshifting. It's about average, so I think we're doing all right. But got about 2 more hours to go on this trip, and then we're done with this, and I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow once everything's there. And that'll be that. So far nothing significant, and it's pretty good. Definitely a good thing. So I'll see you guys later, and hopefully see you tomorrow once we get to the destination back at the house. Well guys, made it back to the house, no issues. I did notice something a little funky on the trailer. I'll have to check this out. So this whole like front plate for whatever reason, decided to come off and get all bent out of shape. Looks like it literally pulled these screws out. So I noticed a while ago, not a while ago when I got up there, that these screws had like started pulling out. Did not think this was going to be the result of this. That kind of sucks. We're gonna have to bend this all back up, screw it in, and we'll be fine after that. But it's like, what the heck? So didn't expect that, but whatever. And but truck did good, no issues. Transmission held up just fine, as it should. You know, good to go. Had the old trans picked up today, so that's not in the garage anymore. And other than that, we're pretty much good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and unload the trailer at some point, and then next up we gotta do a service on the transmission. We gotta do filter, band adjustment, and trans should be good to go for a good while. I think I'm gonna do a fluid change, probably every like 50,000 miles or so, something like that, maybe 30,000. Not 100% sure yet. I gotta call up the guy from Dynamic and just double check. It's either 30 or 50, I don't know. But transmission, like I said, is doing great. Truck's doing pretty solid. Big last real maintenance item I got to knock out in the truck. I do need to do another oil change already. We already got up to 8,000 miles in the last over the last little course of whenever we did the last change. About a month, 2 months now. It's pretty wild. But we should be done with the big trips for a little bit. And then finally, I think we can get focused on the car. So I got an idler pulley to install in the car. That's my bad tire, by the way, from earlier I was talking about. I got an idler pulley to put in the car, and then I want to get focused on the clutch, tune, hopefully fuel system over the winter, and we'll see what we can get. But that's going to go ahead and conclude the video for today. So like I said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.